Hello YouTube and welcome to Casual Weekends with me, Chase, and this is the episodes where I play something that is not World of Tanks or in the future World of Warships, but this is me going back to one of the older games that I used to play called NavyField. Now NavyField, according to the developers, is a massive multiplayer online tactics simulation game, or to all the laymen, this is a World War II naval combat game where you're all driving ships. That makes sense? Excellent. Moving on. So this is a game I used to play a long time ago. My last sort of consistent play time in this game was about 2 years ago. So I am a little bit outdated with some of the things that have happened in terms of the new ships and stuff, so please forgive me because I just have no clue about the new stuff. But that's okay, because the fundamentals are still there and I understand those. NavyField, I have to say, is an amazing game gameplay-wise. This is a fun game. This is something that actually is a lot of fun, even though ironically you're almost always on the same sort of map. Well, I mean, there's different maps, but I mean, there's not a lot to change it in terms of it. Like, there's the occasional island here and there, but otherwise you're always on the sea, and the environment doesn't really ever change. There's no rain, there's no there's none of these crazy things. It's just kind of the ocean, which environmentally wise is not the most exciting thing. However, NavyField does have actually quite good gameplay, and its gameplay also tends to be quite hectic. So you maneuver your ship by clicking the mouse and moving it around. You aim your guns, you angle the guns, and you fire that all through the keyboard. You're managing your scout if you are a battleship, and then at the same time you're avoiding other ships by maneuvering. You're also trying to look around the map to see where the action is, where are the threats coming from, where are the other ships at. And so NavyField is a game where you're not very passive for a very long time. This is oftentimes and a little bit of a contrast to World of Tanks, where if you're playing, let's say hypothetically, a tank destroyer, sometimes you just get onto a nice little hiding spot and you kind of stay there for quite a while. There's not that great of a need to move or do other things. You're just looking through and seeing what you can see and shooting what you can shoot at. NavyField is a lot of sort of activity. You're always constantly like, okay, I gotta make sure that there's no enemy sneaking up on me, in which case in this battle, as you saw earlier, somebody did manage to sneak up on me and they got a couple of shots in, but I managed to get out of their range. But NavyField is a lot of sort of like, okay, I'm gonna manage my scouts, I'm gonna aim my guns, I'm gonna keep track of the enemy, I'm gonna avoid this, and I'm gonna keep my eye on the map. And it's very, very, very hectic, and there's not a lot of time where you're sitting around doing absolutely nothing at all. Even if you play carriers, which the aircraft carrier, you really just sort of park at the back or sit somewhere in the back and you're launching airplanes. Even carriers are very, very active because their aircraft are engaged in very, very furious sort of combat. But NavyField does have its flaws, and I'm not saying that it doesn't. NavyField's biggest flaws, I would say, was the fact that its system is really dated. I mean, NavyField is getting pretty darn old, and it doesn't seem to like the newest operating systems, and that was a big issue for a lot of NavyField players, because they had this game that a lot of them wanted to play and they couldn't, because every time they would play, their system would crash or the game would crash every 10 or 15 minutes, and that made the game unplayable. I've been lucky. I don't know, for all the computers I've ever had that ran NavyField, I've never really had that many that crashed. So maybe I just got lucky, but NavyField doesn't seem to hate me as much. So thank God, and I've actually managed to get a bit of playtime and quite a lot of entertainment out of this game. However, NavyField has also done some things that are maybe borderline not that smart. Kind of smart maybe business sense wise, in terms they've made money from implementing a new class of ships, but gameplay wise, not the smartest thing in the world. That being submarines. Sorry, carriers are actually great. Sorry, I love carriers, but the submarines seem to be something that wasn't very well implemented in NavyField. So what NavyField tried to do was they tried to make submarines like these hidden battleship killers. And a battleship has to deal with a lot of things already. Battleships, aircraft. That having battleships deal with a third class of ships that is purposely designed to kill them makes the game extremely tough to play as a battleship. Never mind the fact that battleships, you cannot detect submarines because you don't have sonar. And you're trading either anti-aircraft fire, for certain battleships, for, anti-submarine ability. So it's like there's always this trade-off, and it's not sometimes like for certain nations, like for example, if you're playing the Germans, which have amazing anti-aircraft, you really, really don't want to give that up for anti-submarine. So the battleships were really kind of screwed after submarines came in, because there was another threat that was extremely powerful that you couldn't do anything about, and that was the thing. You know, submarines could stay underwater for the whole time, and you wouldn't even know that. You couldn't even see where they were. All you would see is just torpedoes coming at you, and then you would just blow up. So, while great business sense, I think, in terms of making more money, getting people to, you know, buy crews and stuff, it wasn't a very good gameplay choice. And I'm kind of glad that when I see World of Warships coming, that they've seemed to have eliminated the submarine class from their design process, or whichever. They've seemed to narrowed the classes down to only 4 classes: the destroyer, the cruiser, the battleship, and the aircraft carrier, which is what NavyField had before the submarines, and it worked well. So I'm kind of glad that that's what World of Warships seems to be going in terms of in that direction. And also, I like the idea that the ships in World of Warships, that even if you're driving a destroyer, you would still have a place in battle in the higher levels. And this is another thing that NavyField really kind of was, you know, had not done that well, was that in NavyField, your role, if you were higher level, was you were either in a battleship or you were in an aircraft carrier. Otherwise, you were just the little boats doing anti-aircraft fire, and that was it. That was like your job. You couldn't really do that much else. I mean, destroyers were, their torpedoes were not particularly effective because their range wasn't that great, and you literally had to drive right up to the opposing battleship to launch your spread of torpedoes. And these torpedoes, on the other hand, were short range. Your ship didn't, well, I mean, it went fast, but you couldn't maintain it for that long, and so a lot of times a battleship seeing you come would just simply blow you out of the water. So, I'm kind of glad that World of Warships seems to be taking the approach where, you know, it doesn't matter what ship you have, you will be effective. So I think that's a really good thing. NavyField did eventually actually go and develop NavyField 2, but NavyField 2 I personally thought was a bit of a disaster, because what a lot of NavyField 1 players were hoping for was just simply NavyField 1 with better graphics. But what they ended up doing with NavyField 2 was they sort of changed the core gameplay mechanics, which is they took away the whole, you know, keyboard manual control. They took away a lot of that, and so they turned it into a very sort of dumbed down version of what this game could be. And that really wrecked the appetite for the people who had played NavyField 1 to go try NavyField 2, because it was just basically point and click. And when you have a game that, you know, was initially so much fun in terms of just having so many things to do, and all of a sudden you're just pointing and clicking, it's not that much fun. Now, this is the thing that worries me about World of Warships, is in which direction will World of Warships go? Will they head in the sort of complex-ish direction that NavyField 1 went? Or are they going to go sort of more like Battle Stations Midway, Battle Stations Pacific kind of style, where it's a lot of just sort of like, you know, click, 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 and your shells will just land somewhere, and or hit something or destroy something? I don't know. I kind of wish that, you know, that maybe World of Warships will borrow sort of the best gameplay elements from, you know, NavyField and things like that and bring it over. But again, it's a very, very different development studio, so again, you can't really hope for that as much as I would like to. However, from reading the blog post, there do seem to be certain things that are actually going to be similar. So for one thing, you've got to lead your target, that or something. You also have to manage like sort of your scout aircraft. So I think there is going to be some things that are going to be somewhat similar to NavyField, and I hope that that is going to be true, because I am personally really, really, really looking forward to World of Warships, more so than probably any other game in the last, you know, huge number of years. And I hope Wargaming gets it right, because I think there's this huge audience for naval combat that has been waiting for essentially what is a NavyField 1 replacement, and in fact hopefully we'll do NavyField 1 better. As you can see right now, on my team there is a battleship left, and as you can tell that there is a heavy cruiser down there just south of the battleship, and that's it. That's the heavy cruiser's role. You see the heavy cruiser doesn't even equip main guns, he's just got anti-aircraft guns. And that was the issue with NavyField, is that as you leveled up, as you got to the higher and higher tiers of ships, the lower class of ships didn't have anything to do. The cruisers and the destroyers were not doing anything, as you can tell. Their role was just to basically be either, you know, targets or whatever, but they didn't have an actual role. And so I am actually very glad that it seems that in World of Warships every single ship will have a role, and that's a good thing. Another thing that I am wondering about is actually how World of Warships will affect its armor and things like that, and hopefully they do that right, because armor and, you know, penetration and all that is actually quite a complex thing, and even in NavyField it was something that, you know, got quite talked about. Oh, there you go. As you can see earlier, I had that, you know, sort of stutter freeze where for like a second and a half, 2 seconds the game would freeze. That is actually a pretty common issue, and I've seen that a lot. And I don't know, NavyField just doesn't seem to be the world's best optimized thing, so I don't know, kind of disappointing. And it's just these little bugs that really ruin sort of the gameplay experience for NavyField. But again, like, all the negatives aside, NavyField was actually an extremely fun game, and that's something I can never take away from it. It is something that, if, you know, the development studio, and let's assume that World of Warships isn't what it, you know, it isn't what it turns out to be, and the development studio for NavyField makes, let's say, oh, I don't know, NavyField 3, where they bring back sort of NavyField 1 gameplay, but with like really upgraded graphics, I mean, I would go back to that game in an absolute heartbeat. That would be something I would absolutely love to try. Anyways, we are coming up to the end of this episode, so thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have an amazing week. I will see you all tomorrow for a brand new episode of World of Tanks LULZ, and have an awesome one. I'm going to let this battle run to the end, so take care and have fun, guys.